My opinion on the MVP, it's cool that he won because obviously I'm a fan, but I mean, I think Jokic should have won it.
With Chelsea needing an olive branch from UEFA to get in with the extra Champions League spot, I'm going to try to stay optimistic, which I haven't been when it comes to Chelsea.
I don't think there's any way he doesn't retire without the career Grand Slam, just the way that he's going. Just so dominant, so fast. Like, he's only 28 years old. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the From the Stands podcast. We are back for episode number 64 on this 22nd day of May, in the year 2025 of our Lord. We are back with another jam-packed episode. Lots of basketball going on in the thick of the playoff season, as we have been the last several weeks here. And also coming down to the very end of the soccer season as well. Also, like we have been for several weeks now. So not really too much movement as far as, sports and things like that. We're still kind of at the very end of both of our seasons here in the two sports that we'll be diving into here in just a little bit. Before we dive into all the exciting things that we have going on in the playoffs for the NBA, Fezzy boy, what's been going on with us recently? How's work? All the good things. Got 3-day weekend coming up, huh?
Oh, that 3-day weekend is going to be so nice. Catch up on some sleep. I was telling my wife this. It is getting into the sticky part of the summer. Like,
little bit.
The really, really hot, humid weather is finally setting in. And
we're not even in June yet.
I know, dude. This is the one thing about living here. Like, the heat is no joke, man. The humidity, dude, knock you right off your feet. But yeah,
I totally agree. I think it's by far the thing that's the worst part about living in South Carolina, at least in my opinion.
But like the springs and the fall, like make up for it. Like,
there's some perfect days in there.
Yeah, sure. And then the fact that it doesn't snow, like that, just you'll put up with the summers all day long. Yeah. Just for that, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many people like at my work that I help people buy homes. For anybody that's doesn't know that, and so many people move here from northern states saying that they just want to get out of they like the cold but they hate the snow, so they right. come down here and live down here. So
yeah,
absolutely. Got any big plans for the weekend coming up?
Yeah, just having some people over, and then Memorial Day going to your house. But other than that, probably gonna get out fishing, take the boat out, go to the lake, do all the things, hang out with the family, just take it easy for a weekend. Usually they're pretty full, but actually sit back and enjoy this one, I think. So
yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm pumped for the weekend as well. Got a pretty busy weekend, actually. Golfing Saturday morning, wedding Saturday evening / night, whatever. Have like a big fundraiser at our church for our youth group. That's like a Memorial Day cookout type vibe. So that'll be super cool. Nice. And then, having some people over, Fezzy boy included, on Memorial Day. So
yeah, man.
Looking forward to kind of chilling, getting some things done around the house in the morning, and then grilling out and stuff in the evening. So
yeah, that'll be fun.
Gonna be a good weekend for sure, I think. So thankful for all the people who served, and they're the reason we celebrate Memorial Day.
Absolutely.
If you're listening to this and you're a veteran, we thank you very much.
Appreciate you guys so much. Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of a little bit of a rundown into our 3-day weekend coming up. Let us know in the comments what y'all got what y'all got going on. And without further ado, we'll get into the basketball portion right now. Starting it off with a little NBA action. We're actually going to go back to last week during the Oklahoma City and the Denver Nuggets series that was going on. I believe last time that we had we were recording the podcast, we're right in the middle of a game 6. Denver did end up coming through with the dub on that one, which was kind of expected, at least in my point of view, just because I felt like the Nuggets were always going to get that game 6 and push it to a game 7 on their home floor. So they did win that game 6, and then they pushed it to a game 7 that was at Oklahoma City's arena. And that one wasn't really as close as everybody was hoping that it would be for a game 7. Oklahoma City really comfortably getting that dub, with the Nuggets resting most of their starters for most of the fourth quarter there. So Um, Obviously, very excited that my Oklahoma City Thunder getting the Game 7 dub, which I think was a huge game for them to
Huge.
win. As just part of this young nucleus of players that we have now that are so good, they win so many games in the regular season, had a really good playoff run last year, but it's a little bit too early. So, haven't really been tested as far as playoffs are concerned. Obviously, we won against the Grizzlies pretty handily, and then obviously the Nuggets with multi-time MVP and a squad that's won the title pretty recently. It was a huge. I think that it's just a huge announcement to say that we're there, even though it's it's kind of sad to see Jokic go out, at least as far as my fandom goes, just because I like him as a player. But I'm very happy to see OKC win. Did you watch Game 7 at all, or did you have any opinions about how the game or the series went as a whole?
Yeah, I think OKC really grew up during this series. Obviously, they played Memphis in the first series and wasn't really a test. Memphis kind of got lucky to be in the play and then get into the playoffs. But yeah, I think OKC just really showed their dominance, showed what they were good at. Denver had it close there. I think it was like going into the third, and then
Yeah.
you guys were hitting shots, turning them over, and just from there, it was kind of a blowout after that, like you said. Denver actually ended up just sitting their starters. Aaron Gordon actually wasn't 100%. He had like a grade one
Dude,
or
I
two hamstring strain, so that definitely did not help them. But OKC, definitely the better team, very deserving of moving forward into the Western Conference Finals.
Bro, the fact that Aaron Gordon played in this game is insane to me.
Wild.
He had a grade 2 hamstring strain
Yeah.
that he suffered in Game 6 at the very end of Game 6. Throughout the 2 days that they had rest, it was pretty. It was not looking likely that he was going to play at all. He was
Mhm.
started out as questionable, and then he went to doubtful, and then he went back to questionable again, and then all of a sudden he's playing, and he grabbed 11 boards in that game. So very impressive. But you could definitely tell that he was hampered with an injury, and he
Yeah.
wasn't scoring the way that he usually does. So very unfortunate for them. I will say, I will admit, as a Thunder fan, I feel like I have to say this as well, but Caruso was getting away with murder on Jokic, bro.
But
Like,
that was crazy.
oh my goodness, dude. Like, obviously, I'm not mad about it, but like,
Right.
just that's not how you want to win. At least not in my
Nah.
opinion. Like, some people are like, they would want all the calls if it meant that their team would win. But just like seeing how the game was, of course, the Scott Foster special. Both of the games that he officiated in this game were easily wins for the Thunder. And
Right.
just how he officiated, how Jokic played against, like with Caruso on him specifically, was I think was so messed up. And like
Mhm.
I didn't like that very much. And people will say, "Oh, the free throw disparity, blah blah blah." It's like, for anybody that's played basketball, and I have not played very much basketball in my life, I will admit, but like I feel like I know from playing other sports, like it's not just the fouls that are being called; it's like the whole momentum of the game and the fouls that they are calling,
Yeah.
not being fouls and things like that that can just change the whole complexion of a game. It's not just like
Mhm.
the calls in and on themselves. So I felt like that was worthy of a mention just because everybody was going crazy on NBA message boards and things after the game. And I completely, I think I even texted Jared during the Game 7. I was like, Caruso is like fouling Jokic every single time he has the ball, and they're not calling
Yeah.
anything. So,
Mhm.
but that's just kind of the treatment that Jokic has gotten over the last couple years for sure. So, but yeah, like I said, very glad that my Thunder were able to overcome. We had I think four of our starters were double digit scoring. Shea came up pretty big. LeGuent's Dort actually hit a couple big shots. So very glad that they're moving on in that one. So moving it on over to the other side, the Knicks already had it wrapped up. The Knicks and the Pacers were kind of sitting for a few days, which was a little bit weird. They still had the Western Conference play before the Eastern Conference as far as when they started, even though they ended way later. So but I think we had already talked about the Knicks winning against the Celtics. Is that correct? Or did they not wrap it up
I
yet?
think uh, in the last doc I saw that they were up 3-2, so they hadn't beaten them in
Okay. Wow.
game 6 yet.
Okay. Yeah. So game 6 of the Knicks series wasn't really close from the beginning.
No.
Pretty much a blowout. All the Knicks starters playing well, all the Celtics starters not playing well. it was discovered after the game that Jaylen Brown was dealing with a pretty significant injury
Mm.
that was going to require surgery as well. So the Celtics getting a little bit banged up here at the end when it matters. Ultimately, not able to get it done against a good Knicks team that was always going to have a good chance to beat them, even if they were at full strength. But they move on 4-2. And then I think we did actually talk about the Pacers wrapping it up against the Cavs, because that was an early out for the Cavs for sure. It
Yeah.
was like in 5 games. So
Mm-hmm.
that was setting up a pretty tasty Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals that includes the Thunder and the Timberwolves, and then the Pacers and the Knicks. We'll get into game ones of both of these series, but before we do that, we'll get our predictions for the two conference finals here. I know that we did a whole bracket thing, and I think both of our Western Conference is still intact, but I don't think either one of us had the Eastern Conference. So
Yeah,
we'll
no.
get into a little prediction now for both sides here. We'll start out with the Eastern Conference. Who you got going through and how many games?
Eastern Conference, yeah. Again, for everybody who's probably gonna, I mean, not everybody's gonna hop into the comments. For those who might be listening and being like, "Well, they have one game to look at." Yes, we definitely do. So I'm definitely gonna use that. I I had the Knicks coming out of the East, especially after their dominance against the Celtics. Granted, the Celtics weren't at full strength. Apparently, the whole series they weren't at full strength, but I had a lot of belief in the Knicks. I feel like they're just riding this like special wave coming into the playoffs, and obviously beating the reigning NBA champs, goes a long way for you. But after what I saw last night, dude, I don't know. I don't think it's time to raise any alarms quite yet. There was some luck involved in what happened last night, which we'll get into. I think I'm still going to take the Knicks. Definitely not as dominant as I thought it'd be. I didn't think they were going to be that dominant. I thought maybe 6, but I think this series definitely goes 7 for sure. 7. But yeah, that's my pick for the East.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Pacers, man. I think I'm gonna buy into the lightning in a bottle kind of situation they got going on over there. Even though I don't even know if it's lightning in a bottle at this point, because they
Yeah.
made the Eastern Conference last year too. So um I mean they're just good, man. So I think I'm gonna go Pacers in 6.
Wow.
6 or 7, but I'm gonna trust Tyrese Halliburton and what he's got going on over there.
Yeah,
They
man.
keep putting themselves in these situations late in game, and they keep coming out of them. So that's got to count for something. So I'm gonna go with the
Absolutely.
Pacers. Switching it over to the Western Conference as well, Thunder Timberwolves. I do believe that this was the matchup that we both had when we
Mm-hmm.
were predicting the NBA playoffs a few weeks ago. Who you got going to the finals? You sticking with your Timberwolves? You switching over to my Thunder?
I really want to just hold strong to what I picked in the beginning, man. But the way the game went, I know Ant didn't have a good game, and they really had a solid defensive game plan against him. And again, we'll dive deeper into this after our pick, so I don't want to give too much away. But just watching what OKC did with Julius Randle still going off in that game,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think, and again, what we are just talking about in the Denver series, I think OKC just really grew up really fast, and being pushed to a game 7 against a really good,
Yeah.
like, championship level team, even though they were banged up, there's still championship level players, MVP level player in Jokic, just pushed to game 7, coming out on top in that. I think they're just battle tested just a little bit more. Because, I mean, if you look at the T Wolves, who'd they go? Who was their first series that they walked through? The Heat, right? Was it the Heat?
No, that the Heat are in the Eastern Conference. They
You're right.
went through.
West. Who did they play in the first round?
Goodness, I know they played the Warriors, and before that they played somebody, and they dispatched them in like what 4 games or something like
Yeah.
that.
Anyways, I can't remember who did it, but anyways, the fact that we can't remember means they walked through them. Then they.
Oh, Lakers.
Oh,
That was funny. But
we're
yeah,
just
they.
forgetting the biggest brand in the whole entire sport. Just,
Yeah.
and like Luca and
But it
LeBron.
was 5 game like gentleman sweep type
Yeah, I mean they
situation. So
gentlemen sweep the Lakers, gentlemen sweep the Warriors. Obviously, the Warriors didn't have Steph after the first 13 minutes of that game, so like they're just not as battle tested as OKC is. And then seeing what OKC did to them again with Julius Randle going off, and like I mean, they have to hit more shots. I'm gonna have to switch to OKC. I just think
Let's
they're putting it together
go.
this year, and I think
Mm.
that's just what ends up happening, man. OKC.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. Well, we got game two tonight. I am obviously going to stick with my Thunder as well. I had them going to the finals and losing to the Celtics in my prediction, so obviously that's not going to happen. But at this point, I do hope that they go all the way. Yeah, I'm going to stay in the same boat for a lot of the same reasons that you did as well. I think we're way deeper than the Timberwolves, and I think that's really gonna help us a lot in this series. I mean, we go 8-9 guys deep that are just like Swiss Army knives. I mean, every single one of our bench guys are like athletic, like can hit a three and D guys. They've completely bought into the defensive identity that the Thunder have now, where it's just hustle, like blitz everybody down low, and then you get out to the 3-point shooters as well. So I just think we're deeper. I think that we can blitz Ant in more ways than any team that he's faced so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, with the athleticism that we have. Julius Randle was 5 for 6 from three the other night, and we
I
still
mean,
beat them by like
yeah,
25
man.
points. So, um, it just, yeah, I think they have to have multiple guys that are, really hitting, really playing well for them to beat us. Cause like I said, there's just too many ways, too many things that we can throw at them. I think that, the Timberwolves, like, while I think that they're a good team, I mean, I know the seeding doesn't really matter, but they came in as a 6 seed and got really favorable matchups the first two matchups. I mean, they're playing a Lakers team that really doesn't have much outside of their top three players. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
drop off is insane. We've talked about that before. And then the Warriors, they lose their best player in Steph Curry. I mean, their identity is completely shot. And like, I mean, it's Jimmy Butler's there, but he's 35, whatever he is now, and they don't have much after that as well. So I think that they got a little bit lucky with it with their draw. Big props to them for taking care of business. But I do think that OKC is ultimately gonna eliminate them. Probably, I predicted 6 games, but if we keep it going, maybe a gentleman's sweep here. So I don't know.
Maybe.
But with all that being said, I was a little bit long winded into our predictions, but we're going to get into the first couple games of the conference finals here. We'll keep it with the OKC and Timberwolves series just because that's the one that happened first. The first game being Monday. Was it Monday? Tuesday night.
Tuesday, yeah.
Where the Thunder, like we just mentioned, yeah, pretty lopsided victory here, 114-88. So very comfortable here. Just Timberwolves never really seemed in the game. Julius Randle had 28 points, so very very impressive from him. But the rest of their starters really aren't doing too much. Jaden McDaniels only had 7 points. Rudy Gobert, who has come up big multiple times throughout these playoffs, 2 points.
Yeah,
Two
man.
points, bro. So obviously we've got the formula for him. I feel like the formula isn't that complicated. It's just Rudy Gobert, but
Mm-hmm.
other teams have made him look good. Mike Conley only 7 points. That's probably not going to happen again. Anthony
Mm-hmm.
Edwards going out early with a ankle twist. He was out for a decent amount of time at the end of the second half there, or at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the first half. I mean, but he's was able to come back, but he didn't really look like himself. And then the Thunder, like I said before, we had multiple guys in double figures once again, getting good production out of our bench. But what did you see in this first game? Without repeating a lot of the same stuff we already talked about, as far as the Thunder likely to win this series based on the first game.
Yeah, I think what's super dangerous about OKC is like, I mean, again, a lot of Julius Randle's damage was done in the first half. He was just going lights out. Obviously, he carried that into the second half a little bit. And you pointed out, like, the rest of the lineup not really doing anything, like 7 points, 2 points, 7 points. But then, like, Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo, who's supposed to be coming off the bench, giving you points. I
Yep.
mean, Dante had 9. Naz Reid only had 4 points. That's not going to happen again. They're definitely going to get more from him as the series goes on. So definitely their bench letting them down. But I saw a stat this either yesterday or this morning where they were talking about Ant. His average distance from the basket when he was shooting was 25 feet. So that was definitely like a huge emphasis by OKC, really keeping him away from the basket, making him shoot tough jumpers, and that's not really his game. Like he's super dynamic. Again, the ankle sprain was probably something that was bugging him a little bit, making it hard to get to the basket, be as explosive as he usually is. But He's going to have to find a way to get to the basket, because when he does that, just opens up those kick out threes. Naz Reid, DiVincenzo, Conley. I mean, Julius Randle now hitting threes. But the other thing too is, I just really feel like the Timberwolves just weren't hitting their open shots. They really OKC sold out to, like, I want to say pack the paint, but they were so connected that, like, when someone drove in, there was always like secondary hands like reaching in and stuff, that they were getting good looks on the outside. They just weren't hitting any threes. Like Dante DiVincenzo didn't do a good job shooting. Naz Reid, people that usually are knocking down shots for you. So obviously they're not going to shoot like that again, but I don't know. OKC just, they can score, they can defend, they can just do everything. They got size. I don't know, man. It's hard for me to, again, I just switched to them going to the NBA finals. Heck, they'll probably end up winning the whole thing, but we'll see what ends up happening as the series rolls on.
Well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so we'll keep that. We'll table that talk for a different time. I think this is still a series. I mean, it's been only one game. The Timberwolves always start slow anyway, but I think
Right.
it's interesting you brought up the 3-point shooting, just because that was actually my next point as well. It's just the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves shot 51 threes and only made 15 of them, so that's a 29% percentage on their threes,
Yeah.
and that's Julius Randle making a third of them with him making 5. So
Oh man. Yeah.
and usually, like you were saying with Naz Reid, like he only scored 4 points. He was 0 for 7 from 3. You can rely on him to knock a couple of those down with that quick release he's got. I remember he was a handful for the Mavs to deal with last year in the finals. He was in like everything. So he'll probably shoot a little bit better. DiVincenzo, I would like to think that he's a little bit better than 3 and 12 from 3. So, but I think one of the issues that Minnesota has, I understand that they were down, but like when you're not hitting threes, like do something else. Like don't just keep chucking them up and
Mm-hmm.
hoping one to go down and be like, oh, that's the spark. We're going to come back now. Like that's how you end up losing game 1 by 25 plus points. So,
Yeah, dog.
and on the other side, Oklahoma City, like I said before, there's multiple bench guys that can come in and hit a 3 and play defense. Kenrich Williams, who like never shoots threes, he was 2 for 2. Alex Caruso coming in 3 for 3 from 3. Dylan Jones 1 minute, which was probably like garbage time, but he's coming in and hitting threes. Like there's
Right.
just, like I said, so many guys that are just Swiss Army knives that just do multiple different things. Just every single one. Aaron Wiggins, Kaysen Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Caruso, all of them athletic 3-and-D guys that can really contribute off the bench. So yeah, that's kind of the tale of the tape for this one. And Jalen Williams didn't even play for us. The other Jay Will, so the big guy. So he's definitely a guy that can come off the bench and contribute as well. So yeah, like I said, based on this first game, I'm really hopeful for the Thunder and going forward. I do think the Timberwolves play a lot better and change some things, but I think that the Thunder are humming at this point, especially like you said, off that Game 7 high when they're just really kind of prove that they're here now, beating a team like the Nuggets. I think that they're they're well set up going forward. So I'm hoping that they take care of this one, this series as well. But we'll see. We got a pretty good game, game 2 coming up in about 15 or 20 minutes or so. So switching over to the Eastern Conference here, insane game last night.
Dude, crazy.
Absolutely insane game.
Wild.
I can't really say that I watched this game until the fourth quarter just because I was busy doing some other stuff. But yeah, Pacers come away with the dub against the Knicks in overtime. I guess we'll just kind of zone in on the fourth quarter because that's really all that I watched. But the rest of it doesn't really matter. But it seems like the Knicks were ahead most of the game by about 10 points or so, pretty consistently. I know they got up by about 15, maybe even close to 20 at the end of the third. So it kind of looked like they were going to put that one to bed. But no, the Pacers come back once again for seemingly the third or fourth time here, and come back to absolutely stun the Knicks. We'll keep it in regular time for now, when I don't remember exactly the points, with like 2.5 minutes left. I think they were down like something like 15 points, I want to say 14 points. And Aaron Nesmith,
Dude.
Went absolutely nuclear from downtown, hitting
This
6 3-pointers in like a 2.5 3 minute span here.
this is the definition of nuclear.
Yeah.
Like some people say that, like, someone will hit like two or three in a row, like in like succession. Like, but dude, this was it five in a row? Five
Six.
consecutive. I think he had six, but it was like five in a row or
I think it
something
was,
like
yeah, it
that.
was 5 in a row. Yeah.
Freaking dude, just crazy.
There were some
Absolutely
crazy
crazy.
stats that I was seeing, and like, with all the advanced metrics and all kinds of stuff that you can run through statistics and all that kind of stuff nowadays. Apparently, there has never been someone that had a hotter hand than Aaron Neesmith last
No.
night. Like in a 2 minute span, there's never been someone to hit that many threes
Mm-hmm.
in that short of a span. So obviously he was on an absolute once in a lifetime type of streak there, bringing him back. Seemingly Halliburton getting the 3-point dagger there to take him home after regulation with that crazy kind of doink off the back of the rim there, and then it going like 10 feet in the air and then dropping in. Everybody thought it was done after that, and he hit the choke celebration, which I thought was great. Little ode to Reggie Miller there, but ultimately his foot was on the line, and they went to overtime and they wrapped it up there. But the Knicks, like, obviously everybody's gonna say the Knicks choked, and they absolutely choked. I don't disagree with that. But it's not like
Right.
they went absolutely cold. Like they scored like 6 points in the last 2.5 3 minutes as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the Pacers were just like it hit every shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like part of that is on the Knicks too, of like not like they kind of let him shoot. They're giving him
Yeah.
not space, but like not guarding him like you should. After like one, you're like, okay. After two, you're like, all right, let's snug up on him. After three,
Yeah.
don't let him shoot. And then he scored like 5 in a row. I'm
Yeah.
like,
What we
bro,
doing?
like
Oh
just
my word.
foul him or something.
Dude, something. It was so bad. And like I'm not even that much of a Knicks fan. I loved watching this game because I feel like this is why you keep watching the game, even though it feels like it's out of hand. Because you're just like, with how prevalent the three ball is, this is what can happen. And obviously this has never happened before in the history of the NBA. But this is why you always hold out hope and you just keep watching and watching. When I saw him hit that third one, I was like, dude, they're gonna do something. Like they're gonna make this a game. I didn't expect them to win it. I'm actually looking at some of the stats right now. New York had a 98.2% chance to win with 41.1 seconds left. It was Indiana had 115 points, New York had 123. They had a 98% chance of winning with 41 seconds left. And then Indiana just did Indiana, I guess. I mean, they've been doing it this whole entire series, man. I don't know what to say.
That is so crazy. And each one of their in their other playoff series as well. Like they had some crazy comebacks with under a minute. So I remember the Milwaukee one that Milwaukee choked away where they let him come back. And then there's one against the Cavs that like I think I even put it in that group chat when we were all talking about it. That shot that he took that his foot ended up being on the line, that's
Mm.
identical to one of the Cavs games that he had. That he kind of dribbled into traffic and he just dribbles out to the 3-point line and like launches a three. Like
Yeah.
so obviously they're kind of making a habit of it. What do you think about them like kind of having to dig themselves out of obviously it's working out for them, but I mean they're
Right.
down like 15, 20 points for like a lot of these games. Like obviously they're finding ways, but you think that they should be in these a little bit more, or like what do you think is going on there?
I mean, I think if you ask them, they would like to be in it more, especially their coach Carlisle. He definitely would want them in the game more. And I like my first reaction was to say, like, this, like, it isn't a roadmap to success, but it's literally been their roadmap to success up to this point. And like, I mean, I think if it was the Pacers against OKC, you ain't doing that against OKC. Because I think OKC is like the direct opposite of that. OKC can start out slow and then just bury you in the third and fourth quarter, where you know, hand in hand, New York had to like kind of give this game away. Like you were saying, like did they necessarily choke it, or did the Pacers like win it? Like yes to both. because like you need help from both sides, especially when it's that drastic of a comeback. Like those free throws at the end by and
Anunoby, yeah, he missed
Anunoby,
one there.
he missed one. If he makes that, I mean, Halliburton doesn't
That's
even win
four
the game with
points.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
right.
4 point game. So, I mean, there's just a lot that went wrong for New York. But like you said, it wasn't like New York went cold and they weren't scoring points. They were, I mean, I thought the game was over when back to back Knicks possessions, they got fouled on threes.
Yeah,
Like back
right.
to back possessions. I was like, dude, the Pacers are just handing them this game. But, like obviously that wasn't the case. But yeah, such a wild game. I thought I was gonna go to bed early that night. Nah, man.
Yeah,
Nah, that fourth quarter came and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I watching right now?
yeah, so crazy. Yeah, I thought it was this is a little bit of a side note, but at the very, very end, the last Knicks possession, where they had, I think they were down one, I think it was overtime.
Mm-hmm.
But the quality of shots that they got off were not great. Like Brunson did his stupid little 3-point trying to draw a foul thing, air ball. Josh Hart gets the rebound, out for Cat, another 3 ball, like barely hits the front of the iron. And like maybe that's like being tired and stuff, but like come on, guys. Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing here? And then Mikal Bridges, I think, turns it over there at the end or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
one last stat to just sum it all up. In the entire history of the NBA, teams leading a playoff game by 14 or more points with the final 2 minutes and 45 seconds of a game of a fourth quarter are 994-0.
Yeah, man.
And they are now 994-1 because of the
Yeah.
Knicks. So that's if that's not an all-time stat, I don't know what is. So
Yeah,
um,
historical comeback of like just epic proportions. It was crazy, dude.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But that'll kind of wrap up the little bit of a recap into the conference finals going on here. Right before the second game of the conference finals, they had a pretty big announcement that I think a lot of people were already expecting, was that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander officially wins the MVP award for this season. A lot of controversy, a lot of debate going on around this in the NBA world, but him. He edged out Jokic. I shouldn't even say that really, because looking at the voting, over 70% of the first place votes went to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 71 first place votes to Jokic's only 29. And they get points for second, third, fourth, whatever voting, but that doesn't really matter. But so pretty big difference here. How did you see this voting going, and did you agree with it? Did you not? And what do you think about the pretty big disparity in the voting as well?
I think we kind of all saw it coming. I think it's well deserved. SGA definitely has had a crazy season on a really really good team, and he is the reason that they win games. Like sometimes you can say it's the team that makes the player good, but this player is definitely transcendent when it comes to winning games for his squad. Um, I kind of thought it was funny. Like everyone was talking about how they usually announce the MVP way earlier than they did. And I jokingly put it in the group chat with you, Jared, and Peter, and just saying like they're just trying to save themselves from like looking really dumb. Like you don't want to like name him the MVP and he's heading into a game 7 against the guy that he's
They
going to end up
loses.
losing to, and he
Yeah,
loses to him, and you
right.
just announced him like the night before or something. Like that doesn't look good. Like at least if they ended up losing, then they announce it after. It's like, oh yeah, here's Shea. I mean, people still would have given him crap, but now that he won it and they can announce it, they're like, oh yeah, he's in the Western Conference Finals now. Like so I feel like it was just the NBA again, saving face, saving their butts, just trying to you know just not make fools of themselves. But I think it's well deserved. I know people will highlight the foul baiting and all this stuff, but I saw a stat today that like Shea doesn't even average that many, free throws compared to the likes of, I think it was literally Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. There's a few others on that list that you're just like, holy cow, like Shea hasn't even touched that stratosphere yet. So I think it's a little harsh. I'm one that tends to be harsh because I just don't like watching that kind of like I don't want to watch someone flailing in the lane getting these calls that may be like, all right, you took contact, but you're definitely selling it. It's just not fun to watch. But you know, at the end of the day, if I was getting paid to do what he's doing, I'd probably be doing the same thing. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think the main thing that most people have a problem with, like, there's some people out there that's going to be uneducated and be like, oh, well, like the amount that he's getting, blah, blah, blah. And like you said, like bring up those stats, like
mhm,
volume wise, like it was like he's not, getting as much as maybe some of those larger other stars. But I think it's the types of foul calls that he does get where there's like minimal to no contact and he's flopping and he gets that whistle.
mm,
So it's just, type things like that where I guess it's the types of calls that he's getting on the types of plays that he's involved in is the stuff that's really rubbing people the wrong way. Um, and yeah, like, and at least during the regular season, there were several games where free throws were like half of his points. And even though you like compare it to maybe other stars or other players in different seasons of their careers, it may not be as much, but it's still counted for a lot. So I definitely get the frustration there. And my opinion on the MVP, like I think it's cool that he won because obviously I'm a fan of he's the best player on the team that I support. But I
mhm,
mean I've been on here so many times. I think Jokic should have won it. I mean the man
mhm,
averaged a triple double. There's endless advanced stats about how his team is literally one of the worst teams in the league when he is not on the floor. If that doesn't show you how valuable he is, like what else is going to? And I think SGA is absolutely propped up by a team that's incredibly deep, one of the best we've seen in recent memory, winning 68 games in the regular season. Yeah, he's the best player on that team, but like I wouldn't say that he is the most valuable. And even though he was on a team like that, he still had worse stats than Jokic did, as far as except for points. He was the leading scorer in the NBA, but so I don't agree that the MVP should have gone to him, but obviously I'm glad that he won it as a Thunder fan. He now joins the OG Thunder guys, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook as the only Thunder players to win MVP. So we'll see if he's able to close the deal here and get a championship, which is something that neither one of those guys did for the Thunder. So we'll see how that kind of ends up in the next few weeks or so. But last couple of things, I guess you kind of put in the doc here. You want to talk about I guess just the playoff landscape, it being better with some of the newer stars versus some of the older guys, or what did you have question there?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on this because I was thinking about this the other day. Obviously, the likes of Kevin Durant didn't even make the playoffs. Lakers went out in the first round. Warriors went out in the last round. Steph, LeBron, even I mean, Luka's not old, but just kind of on a Lakers team that's not doing a whole lot right now. But just all these old, like older players that we grew up with kind of like on their last phase of their careers. And just with the conference finals that we have now, you got Halliburton, Brunson, SGA, and Ant, definitely four of the up and coming superstars in the league for sure. I just kind of wanted to get your opinion. Like, how do you feel like the future of the NBA is looking with these kind of, I guess you could say these four at the helm. Obviously, you have other ones. We even have like, Wemby hasn't even made the playoffs yet, and stuff like that. We have all these different stars that are up and coming. Do you think it helps the game to kind of transition to, caring more about those stars, or do you think we should continue to hold on to like really hoping that like LeBron and Steph, make deep playoffs runs so we can continue to see them in the postseason longer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you can realistically do that anymore, especially because I mean, these guys aren't just old; they're like very old at this point. Like,
Right.
they're at the point now where we haven't really seen guys hold on for this long. Like, Steph's 36, I want to say. LeBron's basically a foot in the grave at this point. Kevin Durant, he's still very skilled for his age, but again, 35, 36. So they're not just past 30; they're getting really old now, and it's kind of evident in their teams as well. Obviously for
Mhm.
for different reasons. The Lakers are just badly managed as a roster, have been for years. Partly because of LeBron James. Kevin Durant, it's kind of the same situation. His big three is okay, but like
Mhm.
it's not going to get. He might be on the move this summer. I'm hearing a lot of things about that. And then, some of the other guys like Steph, again, kind of poor roster management, not really being able to build around him as he gets a little bit older. Just by the sheer fact that these guys aren't in the playoffs when it really matters in the deeper rounds, kind of forces us to look to these younger guys just because those guys aren't going to have it forever. And I think some of these other young guys that are up and comers are definitely exciting to watch. I do think that they're going to have a huge problem on their hands as far as gaining viewership, just because
Mm,
like they have to they don't really have a face of the league right now. Like I think they want it to be, it might be Luca with him going to a big market. Like he was always kind of destined for that just because he was so good so early.
mm-hmm.
But they've kind of screwed him over by putting him on the Lakers, who maybe aren't going to be good for a little bit. And like they don't like Jokic for whatever reason. They're not giving it to
Right.
him. So like I think they're really trying to push SGA Ant, but like if they want it to really be successful, like they got to just like take their hands off and just let like rivalries mature naturally by playing each other in the postseason like 2-3 times in a row. Really, like Brunson being in New York, like that's cool, but like he's got like a foul baiting reputation about him. So like they just gotta like let things happen naturally. And like I don't I think it's gonna be a long time before we see another like Cavs Warriors where it's just like them in the finals like year after year, where it's just like you know viewership was exploding and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it'll definitely be a transition period, I think, for sure, as we go into you know I guess a more questionable or like unknown few years where we don't have these amazing stars that we've had for 10-15 years dominating the sport.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I thought you would say, and that I feel the same way. I mean, this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm bored of watching like LeBron and Steph, but it's kind of just like you said, they're just so old. Like, yeah, Steph can still like give you like flair and exciting plays and stuff like that. But like at the end of the day, it's just we're really just watching him shoot. He's really not doing a whole lot of like, taking guys off the dribble, like crossing them up, doing all this. LeBron's not as athletic or obviously young as he used to be. So I personally love the conference finals that we have with like all these young guys, young, athletic. I really like the Thunder and the T Wolves series because you got
Yeah.
SGA who's super skilled. Again, the foul baiting, it's hard to watch sometimes, but at the end of the day, he's just a really good basketball player. And then you have Ant when he's healthy, not working off like a twisted ankle, you know, like the dude has like several highlight dunks that are just insane. It's just like it's fun to watch that. I guess I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think one of the things that has hindered specifically LeBron and like Kevin Durant, for example, is like they haven't put themselves in positions to, even though that they're old, they can still obviously be on great teams and have a lot of success. But both of them haven't really put themselves in positions to do that late in their careers.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kevin Durant seems to continue to want to just hop around teams every 2 years, try to. He's obsessed with this whole big three model where he has to be at a big three everywhere he goes.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what his next team's going to be? And LeBron, like we mentioned this several weeks ago, but like going to be 41 by the time he plays an NBA game next, and he still's not talking about taking a pay cut, like taking the
Yeah.
most money that he can. It's like, bro, you're 41. Like, do you want to win or not? Which is like a whole nother discussion, which I don't think he really cares about winning at this point in his career.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of done as much as he wants or cares to, maybe, and he's just kind of like, oh, this is my legacy. I just want to make the most money I can, which is a problem. But yeah, just specifically those two guys, I think if they made different decisions throughout their career, they still could be at a conference finals at this point in their career. But unfortunately, they did not. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I just wanted to get your take on that. I was thinking about that the other day, and yeah, it's just interesting to see as we get older. Obviously we grew up with a great era of the NBA, and now just seeing it transition into some of these younger guys that are up and coming, and just how the game's changing. Just wanted to get your opinion on that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, pretty long basketball take there, even though we only had really a couple games to recap. But like we always like to say, it's one of the more exciting times in the sport, obviously, with the playoffs coming down to the last four teams here. So that'll kind of do it for the basketball portion of the podcast, and we'll hop it over to the other side of the pond as we usually do here in just a moment as well. So stay tuned. Hopping over the pond as we like to usually do on this here podcast to my land of birth, not country, but just continent in general. So for a little Premier League talk, we'll start out in England just because that's really one of the only countries that their Champions League race is still in full swing. Manchester City winning their match to bring all of the teams up to 37 games played. They win against Bournemouth to really just increase the bottleneck that we have there in place number 3 through, I believe it's 6 now. 7 even with Nottingham Forest there. So they take care of Bournemouth 3-1 pretty easily. I think they were ahead 3-0 for most of the second half. So pretty comfortable dub there. The other contenders for the Champions League spots, for the most part, taking care of business as well. Chelsea narrowly beating Manchester United 1-0. There was a question there. Manchester United did score a goal, but it unfortunately was called back. That would have put them up 1-0. And I questioned a little bit if they were going to play their real squad against this Chelsea team, just because they had the Europa League final coming up, which we'll touch on a little bit. But they basically played their first team and still lost. So Chelsea coming away with a pretty good dub there. Aston Villa beating Tottenham, who they actually did rest quite a bit of their starters, which, as again we'll talk about in a little bit, might have helped them a little bit. And then Nottingham Forest beating West Ham as well. So most of the contenders there at the top winning all of their games. So the table now looks like this. We'll start at, I guess, at the top. Liverpool 83, Arsenal 71, Man City at 68. Here's where the bottleneck comes in. Newcastle 66 points in fourth place. Chelsea also 66 points in fifth place. Aston Villa also 66 points in fifth place. And Nottingham Forest with 65 down in seventh. So Nottingham Forest could get left out of the whole thing, or they could possibly make Champions League. So that's what we got to play for here in the final day of the Premier League season here. Man City having a pretty favorable matchup here with Fulham on Sunday. By the way, all the games are on Sunday at 11 a.m. So it's kind of cool how the last day kind of sorts out to be like that. Aston Villa playing Manchester United. So that'll be a pretty good game. Manchester United, I don't think they'll be laying down easily or anything like that. They're going to want to go out probably on a good note. And then Chelsea playing Nottingham Forest. This is the only matchup where we have two of the Champions League contenders playing each other here on the final day. So that will probably be one of the better games as well. But who do you got going through to the Champions League here? How much of a chance do you give your Chelsea boys? And who do you hope goes through if Chelsea does not?
Who do I hope go through if Chelsea does not? Wow. Nobody. That's who. No, I think it'd be
You
really
can't
cool if,
be
like,
in it. Nobody can.
that's right. Shut it all down. Shut
That's
it
right.
all down. Todd Bowley would probably figure out a way to do that. No. Honestly, not Aston Villa, they've been in it. Nottingham Forest, I think the whole season, obviously they've kind of fallen off of form lately, but like I think it'd be really cool to see them back in the Champions League. Kind of similar to how like Newcastle got into it a couple of years ago for the first time in forever. Just seeing some of these older Premier League clubs, English clubs, make it back to the mountaintop and play in the Champions League would just be super cool and like something that we haven't seen in our lifetime, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But I really, really hope Chelsea can hold on to that fifth spot again. We kind of talked about it last year, kind of funny last week, with Chelsea needing an olive branch from UEFA to kind of get in with the extra Champions League spot. But yeah, we'll see if we can pull it off. We've definitely kind of set expectation and not hit it the last few weeks. So I could definitely see us bottling this, but I'm gonna try to stay optimistic, which I haven't been very optimistic the past few weeks when it comes to Chelsea.
Yeah. Well, hey, win, you're in. So as long as you take care of business, I got
Yeah,
anything to
man.
worry about. But Nottingham Forest is going to be given their best as well because if they win against Chelsea, that obviously takes them above at least Chelsea in the race. So they're going to be hoping for a little bit of help from at least one team farther up the table to slide in there. But I'm hoping that Nottingham Forest at least gets Europa League football next season, just based on the season that they've had. I think they deserve it. I think it's cool to see an old team like that has not just one but two Champions League trophies in their trophy cabinet. Getting back into Europe will
Mm-hmm.
be a cool story for sure. But I was really hoping that Man City would at least tie against Bournemouth to make it really really interesting and
Right.
them not have a real good chance. But it does look like they're going to be in there once again,
Yeah.
just because they have a two point advantage on everyone else, and they're sitting in third, which is obviously two spots above the fifth place. So we'll see kind of what happens with that. That'll be really really exciting. It's always a good time when it kind of comes down to the final match day and they all play at the same time. It's just kind of almost
Yeah.
reminds me of March Madness, where there's like so many things going on.
Right.
You gotta kind of keep up with everything. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's really the only thing that we have to look forward to as far as the Premier League is concerned. The relegation battle has been decided for several games now. Leicester City, Ipswich, and Southampton, all three of which got promoted last year. So they come up from last year and go straight back down. So
See ya.
I will mention Leicester City though. Jamie Vardy,
He's
very
leaving.
last game for the club, scored his 200th goal on his 500th appearance. He will be leaving the club at the end of the season. I'm not sure if we even mentioned that last week, but
I don't think so.
um, very cool to see him go out on those round numbers like that. That's always cool to see. Obviously, Leicester's best ever player really has won everything in England. He's won the FA Cup. He's won the Premier League. He's won the Community Shield. Obviously, had a good kickabout in the Champions League with Leicester, getting out of the group there that one time. So, and he's won several of the inferior leagues too. I think he's won the Championship and League One as well with Leicester because he's been there so long. So,
Hmm.
big props to him. What do you got to say about Jamie Vardy going out here, likely to Saudi or to the MLS?
Dude, absolute legend. That magical run that they had, what was that? 2016, something
Yeah,
like that.
15, 16.
2015, 16 was that's just one for the ages, something that people will never forget, especially, we were old enough to like experience that run and just see the improbable, just kind of like this crew of like, I don't know, misfits just taking over the Premier League and knocking off all these big teams and, slowly building that hope and then the hope turning into like, reality. And then obviously them reaching the mountaintop at the end. But sad to see him go. Like you said, he'll probably end up in MLS or Saudi. Just make his money while he can. But cool to see him score on his final Leicester game and hit that round number. Is it 200 Premier League goals or something like that? 200th career
200
goal.
goals for Leicester City.
Gotchas. Okay.
He's scored in several different leagues, obviously, because they've just been up and down so much. But
Yeah, I mean, part of what makes the story so special is he started grassroots, like one of those true
yeah,
underdog stories, like legitimately playing like it wasn't even considered like semi-pro. It was just like his local town, you know, soccer club, and then working his way up the ranks, and Leicester was the first one to give him a chance, and making the most of that opportunity. And he was like legitimately during that couple, like, 2-3 years, like the best striker in the world, like statistically, just like,
yeah.
during that run, like,
I mean,
I think he had offers from bigger clubs and just, decided to stay with Leicester,
oh
you
yeah.
know?
After that one year with Leicester, he had all the big boys coming after him. I mean, we had Arsenal and Manchester United and all them. But yeah, big props to him staying for sure. Because like you said, I mean, he was even on their Euro 2016 England roster. Obviously did some good things at that tournament. But honestly, like just huge props to him for the loyalty. Because I mean, there's
Mm.
loyalty where it's like Royce staying at Dortmund, which is obviously we talked about that a lot last year. One of my favorite players personally, but like it's a little bit easier to stay at a club like that where like
Right.
basically every year you're going to be in the Champions League. You're going to be
Hmm.
fighting for the title, but like staying at Leicester City, like you
Right.
get lightning in a bottle, like never going to happen again type of odds to win the league. That's cool. But like obviously the whole team left after that, but he stayed. And like
Mm.
even when they got relegated a couple years ago, stayed again, got him back into the Prem. And now like obviously they're going back down again, but he's at this point like really old, but he's still leading the team in scoring. So just a really cool story with him. Like obviously joining when they're in the second division. Obviously getting them up and having that crazy season in 2016 is absolutely crazy. And one last note, just because we're talking about Leicester City that year too, like not to bring it, to the Arsenal point of view, but like
Mm.
everyone gives us crap for not winning a league since 2004. And legitimately so. Like we haven't been there, obviously, but like that was the year that we were finally going to win. And this
Yeah.
relegation battled Leicester City with a bunch of people, a bunch of players that no one's ever heard of, comes out of nowhere and wins the league. Like we got second place there, like over all the big boys. We finally, technically beat all the teams that we should be beating. Then Leicester City out of nowhere, just takes it from us. But yeah, that was a crazy year. Never will be forgotten. But so that's kind of the situation over in the Premier League. Hopping over to the Bundesliga, we had a little bit of a great story here as far as the Bundesliga is concerned. Really not much to play for there either, just because the title is already wrapped up. Most of the top three Champions League places taken by Bayer Leverkusen, who, despite not being able to push Bayern to the very end, had a good season again. Sitting in second. Might have to talk about them getting broken up. Speaking of teams that will be broken up, Frankfurt very solidly in that third place spot, and then Dortmund sliding into
Yes,
that last
sir.
spot to get to the Champions League. Dortmund taking care of business against Holstein Kiel, who are already relegated for the year, 3-0 on the day. And then, um, Frankfurt beating SC Freiburg to give Dortmund that little bit of a favor to get them into the Champions League as well. So, what do you guys say about Dortmund making another appearance here in the Champions League? It just didn't seem right to have Dortmund in the Europa League here, did it? I'm super pumped that they're back.
Dude, I'm so happy that they are. I mean, I think like collectively, you and I, it's probably our favorite team in the Bundesliga. I definitely root for them all the time, even though Royce is gone. But dude, they always find a way. There's just that
Yeah,
one team that always finds a way to make it in the Champions League. And I said off pod right before we hopped on, they'll probably mosey their way on to a quarterfinal or semifinal in the coming season, have a horrible showing in the league, and somehow get back into the top four again. It's just kind of the life cycle of, well, it's just the type of club they are. Like, they
right.
do buy they do buy some big players, but they're primarily a business where they'll get youngsters, they'll train them up, they'll play like a couple good seasons for them, and then they'll sell them. So they're kind of always that squad that, like, they can put a good season together. Was it 2 seasons ago they were in the Champions League final against Real Madrid?
Last
Or was
season.
that was last
That's
season?
last season.
Feels like forever ago already, but
Yeah.
yeah, they're just kind of that team that's this always there, never the always the bridesmaid, never the bride, but fun to watch them play, and happy to see them in the Champions League like they should be.
Yeah, I definitely haven't had as much success since Klopp left all those years
Mm.
ago. But it's always cool to see them in there. Huge comeback from where they were middle of the season when they fired their coach and got Niko Kovac in there. They were laboring down in 12th. Any kind of European football seemed like a fever dream at that point, but really able to climb them all the way back up. 5 wins in their last 5 games here, really able to propel them up the standings and get them into the Champions League spot. So love to see that. Wanted to touch on, even though this isn't in the doc, wanted to touch on Bayer Leverkusen. It looks like they're going to get absolutely just picked apart this coming off season. Florian Wirtz, which has been their best player the last 2 years. He is likely going to Bayern, which is very
Mm.
unfortunate. Bayern going back
Tough.
to the picking off their rivals, just buying all the best players in Germany to fend off title contenders. Xabi Alonso obviously going to Real Madrid. Um, one of their, I think is their left back, I want to say, has already signed for Liverpool. Jeremy Frimpong.
Mm.
Patrick Schick has been rumored to Arsenal because we really need a striker. Jonathan Tah has also been linked to the Premier League as well. So just all the cornerstones basically of their team for the last 2 years. Obviously, the magical run they had domestically last year, winning all three German trophies, doing really well for them. But it looks like they're going to get picked apart here. What do you got to say about Bayer here and their nice little run? Obviously, the biggest part of their success in Xabi Alonso is going to Madrid. So, how do you see the future here for Leverkusen?
Yeah, I think they'll be poor once again. They really caught lightning in a bottle. Had a really good manager. I mean, the only reason that they were any good this season as well is because they one held on to the manager, but because of that, held on to some of their players that
Yeah,
definitely would have jumped ship last season if he left. Um, just a magical season that they'll remember forever. Going undefeated in the league, almost winning the Europa League and all that. But sad to see. I mean, I understand the move. Like Xabi Alonso played for Real Madrid. That's probably one of his dream jobs to go back, coach the first team there.
yeah,
But it's just kind of the life cycle of the sport. These kind of talking about Leicester. Lightning in a bottle, and now they're getting relegated. For the second time in the past like 5 years. So it's just hard to stay at the top if you just don't have the money, or I guess I can't even really say history because talking about like the Nottingham Forests of the world and stuff like that. History doesn't do a whole lot for you, but
yeah.
just with all this money coming in, these clubs just set themselves up for future success. But if you're a smaller club, you're just going to get all your players and obviously your coach poached as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I thought it was impressive that they were able to hold on to them for another year
Mm.
after the magical run. So, a little bit of a more normal year, quote unquote, for them this year, and now most of them will seek greener pastures elsewhere at bigger clubs. So we'll see where everybody ends up. But moving it on over to Italy, the title race is actually not decided in Italy yet. So
Whoa.
coming down right to the last game here. Napoli holding on to a 1 point lead over Inter in that title race. Both have pretty big games, obviously, this weekend with sorry, Inter playing Como, who's in 10th place,
Mm.
and Napoli playing Cagliari, who are in 14th place. So should be wins for both of them. Obviously, if they both win, Napoli will win the Scudetto for the second time in 3 years. But we'll see kind of how that'll shake out. Obviously, we mentioned last week if they end up on tied points, they'll play a one-off for the Italian championship, which would be really cool. Never really seen that before in soccer, so
Mm-hmm.
that would be pretty lit. But I'm not sure really who you have here. I do want to say something about Como really quick. That's not going to be an easy game, I don't think, at all for Inter, just because Como have a nice little project going down there. They
Mm.
have huge spenders as far as their ownership is concerned. I know they're in 10th place right now, but they just got promoted last year. Cesc Fabregas is the coach over there. They have an ownership group led by Thierry Henry. Several big players, at least by name in Italian football, are there right now. So and they've already spent like $35 million more before the transfer window even opens. So little Como here might be pushing for Europe in the next couple seasons, but that's just kind of something to look out for. But how do you see these last couple games here going for the Napoli and Inters of the world? Do you think Napoli holds on, or do you think Inter is able to pip them? Obviously, they'll need Napoli to tie or to lose to win the Scudetto or to push it to a playoff game here.
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I would love to see them play that playoff game. Like, that would
Yeah.
be so cool. Like, one game to decide it all. Like, let's just figure it out head to head. That'd be just a. I think we were talking last week. Like, that's just such a cool way to to finish the league. Like, obviously, they don't go to tiebreakers. It's just like, hey, who's the better team? We're just gonna play each other. Whoever wins the league. So selfishly, I hope that happens. Like you said, it's not gonna be an easy game for Inter, but I just think they're still just head and shoulders above Como, and then Napoli. I haven't been following Serie A as much this season,
I haven't either, to
um,
be honest.
as much. So
Honestly,
I
the
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
probably the unlikeliest version of events will push this into a playoff. Like Napoli need to lose entirely, and Inter have to tie. So it's
Right.
just going to be really like one of them by themselves is pretty unlikely, but the two of them put together is even more unlikely. So
Yeah.
um, but yeah, very much rooting for that. But we'll see. I'm kind of hoping for Napoli as well, just because of the guys that they have going over there. But Inter still have the Champions League final to look forward to. But
It's true.
mentioning Milan, just because we have a couple American guys over there. Um, Inter Milan, sorry, AC Milan officially missing out on European football entirely because of their 3-1 loss to Roma a little bit earlier in the week. Had a man sent off as well. Just putting a bow on a really pitiful season for Milan overall. Roma, we're talking about Dortmund's comeback. They were laboring down mid-table most of the season as well, and now they're sitting pretty in 5th place right now with a chance to overtake Juventus in the last game of the season. Only down 1 point there to maybe even play Champions League football next season for the first time in a while for Roma. But they'll probably at least get a Europa League spot there, looking pretty good for them. But what do you got to say about Milan here? Just disastrous season overall. Had a chance in the Coppa Italia as well against a Bologna team that really is not too great. You know, you'd bank on Milan winning that at least on paper, but wasn't to be. What do you got to say about them?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a season that they're gonna want to forget for sure. They got to go to the drawing board, man. Like, with the pieces they have, you'd think they would do more, but they're just, for whatever reason, struggling to put it together. I know it's the manager situation with like who's in, who's out. Swap. They've had 3 managers this past season, so just like some sort of continuity with that. Like, not sure what's going on there. I saw that Christian Pulisic, like, he verbally like kind of agreed to a contract extension, but that's halted now because he wants to see, and rightfully so. I think he's kind of earned this position. I don't think he's being too, I want to say, arrogant and prideful in the way that he's going about it. But like, you want to know what their plans are for the club heading forward. Like, are we going to get back in the Champions League? Are we going to start pushing for bigger trophies? Like, I can go play. He could definitely go play somewhere else now. Do people like? Are they actively are their teams actively out there looking at him? Probably not. Would he like to stay with Milan? Obviously, but at the end of the day, your career is only so long, and you don't want to waste years on a club that's not really getting their act together. So, really unfortunate to see such a big name not be in the not be in any European football for that matter. So, just a really, really, I guess, sad situation. I guess you'd say.
Yeah, tough season for them overall. I don't really, like I said, I don't watch a ton of Italian football unless it's like a big derby or something like that. So I can't really say like the specific reasons or opinions I have about why it's not gone well for them. I feel like there's just, especially with the names that they have on the, obviously names don't bring chemistry and all that, but just on paper, like you shouldn't be losing and tying to so many teams that are under the second half of the table. So I just think that's inexcusable, really. But we'll see where they're able to go from here and kind of retool and see who leaves, who stays. If they change their manager, who's it going to be? So be interesting to see. Kind of be following that a little bit closer too, obviously. So last thing that we'll touch on is just the Europa League final. I was talking about this. Obviously, both of us were before we got on the pod, but super weird scheduling here. The Conference League final is Wednesday of next week, and the Champions League is Saturday of next week.
Yeah.
And then the Europa League was like obviously yesterday. So it's strange there. Obviously, Europa League's the second highest competition there, so that's just a little bit of a weird scheduling thing here. But
Right.
Tottenham coming up with their first trophy in 17 years after defeating
Crazy,
Manchester United. Literally the first time they've won a trophy since I've been watching football. So
dude.
very, very
Facts.
weird to see them with any kind of trophy in their hands. But Manchester United with a season to forget. But this game in particular, I'm not sure if you had a chance to watch it. Honestly, pretty rough game overall, I would say. But even though it was a rough game, Manchester United absolutely dominating. Literally
Wow.
the most of the game. 76% possession, 16 shots to 3. Um,
Whoa.
Tottenham didn't even have a shot on target until late into the second half. Obviously, their only one was the Brennan Johnson goal in the 40th minute. So, um, yeah, just complete dominance, but by Manchester United, but not able to put one in the back of the net. Smash and grab type of situation for Tottenham here. As an Arsenal fan, absolutely hate Tottenham. Everything in my heart was on Manchester United's side on this one. But yeah, they win and they'll be playing Champions League football next
That's
season
wild.
as the 17th place finisher in the Premier League, one spot above the relegation zone in the Prem. What do you got to say about the Hotspurs bringing it home here?
I mean, the curse is lifted. Harry Kane wins a trophy.
Dude, so crazy.
Tottenham wins a trophy in the same season. Like, I mean, the curse has been lifted apparently.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot to say, but do you think they keep their coach? Like, I mean, he has that
Dude,
famous tagline where he's like, "The second season is where I win stuff." And I mean, obviously, the Europa League isn't the Champions League, but the Europa League got you into the Champions League, so they're playing Champions League football, even though they are literally like, I think we were talking about it last week or like semi off pod, I think. But if the relegation battle wasn't done and dusted like halfway through the season, like Tottenham would be breathing like really heavy, and like
yeah.
it's something you just don't think about or say out loud.
Yeah, I think without the trophy, he definitely gets sacked. I thought it
Right.
was hilarious. Like, obviously I'm a Tottenham hater, but like, whatever. You won a trophy the first time in almost 20 years. Let them have their moment kind of deal. But they were going crazy on online, just their social media team, like just abusing that quote that he says, like, "Oh, I win things in my second year." I was like, brother, you didn't win much. You're down in 17th,
Right.
eliminated from everything else. Like, yeah, you won the Europa League, but like
Yeah.
I've like we said in the pod before, like their road was significantly easier than Manchester United was. They're playing like AZ Alkmaar from the Netherlands, and Bodo
Yeah.
Glimt was in the semifinals. Like impressive, sure, but yeah, it's definitely a little overplayed in my opinion. But hey, let him have their moment. I think he does come back just because of that.
Mm.
They'll want stability, at least in my mind, going to the Champions League next season. But
Mm-hmm.
congrats to them. That's crazy. It'll be interesting to see what kind of players they get in. Um, Obviously, I'm a hater of all things Tottenham, but I am happy for Heung-min Son. He's been there for a long time. Just a great player, great just a person in general. Just seeing a lot of the videos that go around online and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
happy for him. But on the Manchester United side of things, like how do you let that one slip? I mean,
Uh,
completely dominated that game. Should be putting away several goals in that one, but couldn't get it done ultimately. But we were talking about it last year, and Ruben Amorim almost certainly will be there next year, and at least it was in my view probably better that they didn't make the Champions League just because
mm-hmm.
with Champions League comes expectations and standards, and
Yeah.
several players probably that Ruben Amorim doesn't even want would have wanted to come to the club because they're playing Champions League football, and this way that they can just rip it down to studs, really get the players that he wants in there, and really try to make a go at it. Less congestion in the schedule by missing out on Europe, obviously entirely. So we'll see kind of who stays in Man United after that. Obviously they've had years past that not just being in the not being in the Champions League, but really struggling for European football. So maybe not that many people leave, but at least some of the older guys will definitely move on just because they're old, and then maybe some of the other guys that want to play Champions League um, might be on the move as well. Garnacho, bro, like I saw him saying some stuff. Like he's been like ultimate team guy. Ronaldo is his idol. Obviously, it was great when Ronaldo was there. Like he was loving life at United,
Mm-hmm.
wanted to follow in his footsteps. But he was saying he was confused as to why he only got about 20 minutes in this final here because he played like every game basically in the last several weeks, and then he gets put on the bench and doesn't get but about 20 minutes in this one. He said he was a little bit confused by that. So that's one to keep an eye on for sure. I'd love him
Yeah.
at Arsenal, bro. Like he's an up and coming, um, maybe not star, but like he's a great player that I could see being really good for a good club. But what do you got to
Mm-hmm.
say about Man U here and really struggling here?
Yeah, the project begins now. Like you were saying, probably
Yeah,
a blessing in disguise that they're not in the Champions League, because then you'd be like kind of forced to bring in like higher profile players to kind of help you, get out of the group and make a run in that. Because if you're in the Champions League, if you go out in the group, then it's definitely not looking good. I did see that their new coach, he actually was quoted as saying like, if they don't think I'm the man for the job, I'll leave without compensation. But until then, we're gonna just put our heads down and like work as hard as we can to get Manchester United back where it should be. I really
There's
like
no
his
way they fire him, right? Like,
no,
dude,
there's
you
no
give him
way.
half a season, a January transfer window, and kick him
Yeah.
out? No,
Well, it's all the freaking Twitter GMs all over the place
I
that think
know.
they know, and like, I it's kind of like the Celtics and like the different sports fans like that are just so like hostile like when
Yeah.
anything is going south because they've been just so pampered for so long with how good things are that they're
I
just like
think
as soon as the wind blows sideways they're just like, oh my gosh, tear it all down. Like,
Yeah, I
no, like,
honestly believe that that's why coaches like across all sports really don't last as long anymore.
mm,
Because as soon as there's like even an inkling of struggle or like rebuild or whatever, like
yeah,
it's so loud online and like everywhere else, obviously in the world that we live in, that like GMs are forced to make
mm,
decisions like that. Unfortunately,
right.
so
It's just too much. Like, everyone has a voice nowadays, and like those voices get loud, especially if it's a lot of people saying the same thing, and it definitely sways ownerships and front offices and management. Like, it definitely sways because like those are the people that are making you money. Like, obviously you have the players. Like, without the players you don't have a team, but like without the fans you aren't making any money, so you got to keep them happy. And just like you were alluding to, the day and age we're in with like social media and you know it's funny because it's kind of like an oxymoron, but like people like us that can like start a podcast and
Mhm.
just say what they want, and like not everybody has to listen to it, but like
Yeah,
that you have the ability to do that now.
right.
Like, we can post our videos to YouTube and like people will see it, and
Sure.
like just the ability to be able to do that can cause a lot of animosity and stuff like that. Not just in the sports world, but in general, I guess you could say.
Yeah, just got to get a GM with a backbone in there. Just be like, no, this is my guy. Got to ride
Apparently.
with him. Because if you look at so many other stories, like there are so many. Unfortunately, you can only really talk about like the really old guys that are from like the 80s, 90s, early 2000s because no one sticks with them anymore. But these are the examples we have because like so many guys, like Sir Alex Ferguson, he struggled for like 3, 4 years at Man U before he made them absolute juggernaut powerhouse with 13 Premier League titles to his name.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many other examples too of like coaches, all time greats that struggled for a year or two at the beginning, and you kind of wonder like how many guys, like if they were given a proper runway, a proper 2, 3 years to build, like how many would
Mm.
create great teams and have great ideas and stuff. But unfortunately, the trigger is really quick nowadays with most teams. So
Yeah, I mean, even like Sir Alex Ferguson, like they talk about all the time. Like his first, like I think it was like season or two there were talks about getting him out. Like, just
yep,
imagine if
exactly.
social media was a thing back then, but management was like, nah, this is our guy. We're gonna ride with him. We're gonna just and like he's one of the greatest football coaches ever. Like, did
Yeah,
so much at Manchester United, and so it's just it's crazy, man. The amount of talk that can happen on social media that I,
yeah,
like everybody just has a voice. Like I said, it's just I don't know.
yep.
It's good and bad for
All these
everything.
podcasters, man.
I mean, these podcasters, man. What do you think? What do they think they know? Nothing. That's what.
Nothing. Guess so.
Yeah, but that's gonna do it for the soccer portion of the podcast. We're gonna do one quick segment and then get out of here.
Touching on a sport that we are trying to talk a little bit more about, and me personally trying to play a little bit more and get better at, golf. PGA Championship was this past Sunday. We won't belabor this too much, but personally, my favorite golfer, Scottie Scheffler, possibly Fezzy Boys as well. He did win his third major and his second overall major. Obviously, he's won two Masters, and then now he's won at the PGA as well. of his career this past Sunday. He was going into Sunday with, I think, a 4 or 5 stroke lead over most of the field. A lot of people just wanted to give it to him then. He did look a little shaky the first 9 on Sunday. John Rahm making a great run there at the end, but ultimately not enough. And John Rahm actually ended up like 8th or 9th, I believe, pretty
Yeah.
far down in the pecking order just because the last 3 or 4 holes he had a couple bogeys, wasn't really hitting it great, but and then Scheffler kind of got his act together and pulled away from the field as well. So just as a I guess we're both kind of Scottie Scheffler fans, but how do you see Scottie Scheffler now that he's got 3 majors to his name and his career going forward?
Yeah, I mean, there's still some insane stat. I think it's like 141 weeks he'd have to hold number one to tie like Tiger Woods. So,
Mm,
but he is definitely by far the most dominant golfer right now. And again,
yeah.
we're trying to talk a little bit more about this. So, like, the research is a little bit lacking. So, I'm not going to try to throw too much out because I'd probably just sound like really dumb talking about it. But
Mhm.
yeah, we both really, really like, I respect Scotty Scheffler like a ton because I was telling
I
you
love
off
it. Yeah.
pod that he is the number one golfer in the world. Obviously, loves golf, puts a lot of work into it. But just seeing him, he did a video with like one of the YouTube golfers that I watch a lot, Grant Horvath. And like, he was really like, yeah, I was on vacation. I didn't touch a golf club, which is like, for the number one player in the world, everyone's like, well, wouldn't he live and breathe it and always like be training this, that? And he's like, nah, he's a family guy first. He does it because he feels like he's been gifted with the ability to play at a really high level and use his platform to influence people in a positive way.
Yeah.
But yeah, mad respect to him. But yeah, dominant fashion, like a little bit of help from John Rahm. I was trying to look up the score, but it wasn't coming up. But yeah, you're right. I think Rahm kind of imploded there down the
Yeah.
stretch, and
Yeah.
Scotty was just the first 9 was not great for Scotty for sure. He said he was missing left quite a bit.
He
There was a
was.
lot of stuff going
Like
on that
4 holes in a row, every tee shot was going left.
yeah, and it was kind of like a side thing. I've seen some things about it, but like this tournament was like really weird with them testing golf clubs and like one of his drivers actually failed one of the tests and so he had to switch up drivers which he he's not using it as an excuse, but that definitely can throw you off a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, glad to see him get this major win and I think he's halfway to the Grand Slam now.
Yeah, he is. I don't think there's any doubt that he obviously we're talking about career Grand Slam with Rory last year. I don't think or sorry, last few weeks at the Masters. I don't think there's any way he doesn't retire without the career Grand
Nah,
Slam,
man.
just the way that he's going. Just so dominant, so fast. Like he's only 28 years old,
That's
stupid young
crazy.
for a golfer. He's like our age basically.
That's
And like I'm a
nuts.
little bit of like I guess you could call me a glory hunter being his fan, but like who isn't when he was so good so quick.
Right.
Like he
Yeah.
won the Masters like his second year on tour or whatever. That's absolutely insane. But
Mhm.
yeah, just echoing a lot of the stuff that you said. Just um, you know, trying to find like watching a little bit more golf and trying to find someone to root for. It's obviously easy to root for him because he's the best golfer in the world right now.
Mhm.
But I can't find another golfer I like more just because of like you were saying, family values. I watched a video of him like speaking at like a church and stuff too. Like he just very faith based, down to
Mm.
earth. From Texas, probably grew up going to going to church, but super family based. Like all the videos that were coming out after he'd won the PGA with his son, like super cute, and like bringing him to the scoring table and like giving him his hat and his scorecard to play with. Just yeah, just you love to see that kind of stuff with athletes. I feel like you don't see as much of that as we should. So yeah, big fan of him for multiple reasons. But yeah, he's obviously an incredible golfer as well. I feel like he has like that thing in golf where like Tiger was had. He has like that killer mentality that like
Yeah.
MJ had. Guys like that, like you don't really see that where he's
Mm.
unfazed, not rattled. Like he can hit obviously any shot. Like it's just yeah, he's fun to watch, and that's coming from a guy that didn't grow up watching golf, but definitely becoming a fan in large part obviously because I am getting a little bit older. Like I always doubted like this whole golf thing. I'll never be into golf or whatever. But now that I'm literally only 26 years old, I'm already like, oh, what's this golf thing? Like it's like scratching it. It's like I don't know. It's super funny. So
Uh,
um yeah, it's
yeah.
cool to watch him. So yeah.
Yeah, I was actually literally going to bring that up like right before that. I was like, is it our old age? Like, is it only that? Like, you hit 25 and you're just like, man, golf.
Yeah, like what is it about that? Just it's something in the male brain, bro. It's just like you hit 25 and you're just like, oh, look at
yeah.
that lawn out there. Let's get
Yeah.
some clubs and like
A whole new meeting to touch grass, kid. Like,
yeah, exactly.
but like I can understand the draw to like play it because
Yeah.
like you and I, like, as athletes who had like played sports growing up, that competitive itch,
Yep.
like that's something like we can play golf until we're like 75 and like plus.
Yeah.
Where like you can't do that with soccer and basketball and all these other more active sports. But like watching it, like for me personally, it has been like YouTube golf has helped that. Like I'm like, oh, and like, understanding golf a little bit more and this, that, and the other. But like, yeah, definitely like I hit like 25 and I'm just like, I'm finding myself turning on the freaking PGA Tour every
Yeah.
Saturday. Like, oh,
I used to do it because like Saturday, Sundays, you put on golf and like you can like
Mm,
nap and stuff and like you kind of
yeah,
like watch it on the side and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think you make a great point. I totally agree with like we're getting older now, so like a lot of our basketball, soccer, maybe athleticism is going away. We still gotta get into something. So yeah,
right.
I can see it now, I guess is my point. So
Yeah. It's also like a great like hangout sport.
oh yeah,
Like
it's
you
the
can just
best.
like chill with the boys, go to the course, like play like nine holes and just have a good time.
Yeah.
But like also it's also like a sport like you're always improving. Like you're never gonna feel like you actually like figure it out. And it's like super
It's
hard to figure out.
so hard,
So
bro.
it's like a challenge to like just be like,
Yeah.
and again, being
It's
competitive, just like I
addicting.
just don't want to freaking suck. Like,
Yeah, it's so addicting too.
but anyways, I did not know that Scottie was 28. I'm just like, I literally thought the dude was like 35.
He
Like
does look a little bit older, doesn't
he
he?
he definitely. It's also kind of like you said, the mentality. Like he's just beyond his years. Like super locked in. Just has a great mentality. Family guy. This, that, and the other. So
Yeah.
definitely makes him seem older than he is. But congratulations to Scottie again, one of our favorite golfers for sure. Winning the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow is actually right here in
Yeah.
North Carolina, Charlotte,
I
about an
knew
hour and a
several
half
guys
away.
that went up there and watched. So
If I knew that, I would have found a way to go up. That's super
yeah,
cool.
that is
Before
fun.
I die, I want to go to a Masters. I'm gonna figure out a way to go. Like whether it's through like the
You
podcast
better
popping
you
off or
better
just being
apply now
rich.
because there's
Yeah,
a huge
yeah. I just
huge
gotta
wait
have
list.
bank on being rich in the next 30 years or something like that. But anyways, I think that's a pod, Sammy.
It is a pod finally.
Finally, we appreciate you guys again for tuning in, sticking with us. Really appreciate if you guys would check us out on all our platforms. We are gaining quite a bit of subscribers on YouTube. So if you guys could go there, subscribe, hit the like button, watch the videos, and do all the things, review on Spotify and Apple Podcast, follow there, and rate us. We'd really appreciate it. That would help us out a ton. We will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.